So the SEC and the Big Ten are up to some shenanigans, I would say. Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Big Ten show. We're going to get into that a little bit today. First things first, as always, my name is Justin Adams. I am the co-host of Sonny Verma over there. I was about to say the host because I'm used to saying that on my other channel, but I'm actually a co-host. Sonny Verma, my other co-host there on the other side. How you doing, Sonny?
I'm doing wonderful. It's a monumental day in the future of college football, I feel like, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah. So just for context here, for those who don't know, in case you've been living under a rock for a little bit, the SEC and the Big Ten have, made a joint advisory group for presidents, chancellors, and athletic directors. And, there are a lot of questions, to say the least. There's a lot of speculation on what this could mean potentially. Could it mean a separation from the NCAA? Could they just be doing what they're told? But they aren't able to answer all the questions, which naturally opens the door for a ton of speculation. So, just let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and get your thoughts, on the surface of this, this whole meeting. What do you think? And do you think there's smoke to some of the speculation that's out there?
Absolutely. I think the one statement that comes to mind is welcome to the Power Two era. It's the Big Ten and the SEC have over the at least the last few years kind of had a Cold War brewing between each other. Like obviously both were two juggernauts, just kind of slowly, taking teams from other conferences, kind of building up one against the other, whether it's, grabbing teams in certain territories or just trying to one up each other when it comes to media rights.
Right.
At some point lately, I think ever since the hiring of Tony Petitti by the Big Ten, I think there's kind of been a change of the mindset where both Titans have kind of realized that, hey, maybe we're not the enemies here. Maybe you're a big guy in this playing place, so am I. Let's work together and let's you and I dictate what the future of college football is going to look like. And I think we saw one of the first major steps today.
Yeah. And to your point, the fan bases, bitter rivals between the Big Ten and the SEC. So it's a little bit of a weird dynamic here to see the two at the top joining, combining, putting their heads together and figuring out the best direction going forward. They state that they're only going to serve as a consulting body. So we'll see what that comes out to be. But, the biggest issue when thinking about it, the biggest issues right now, when looking at the overall landscape of college football, we would have to probably all say that transfer portal, NIL, recruiting, but not only that, little details like the transfer portal window, the fact that the portal window is open while teams are, in playoff games and stuff like that. And that's going to be a hard one to overcome just because, the timing of the semesters and all that stuff factors into these things. So it'll be interesting to see if they can come up with a solution for that. But if that's the only thing they're going to do, but it's, like you said, they've separated themselves from the rest of college football over the last few years with these huge media deals. And this is just, it seems like the more college football turns into a business, the more we're going to see stuff like this because everybody at the top, their goal is the same, to make the most money possible. Right. And so they're going to do whatever they have to do to get that done. Hopefully not at the detriment of college football. They say they're trying to improve certain things of college football and refine the game and add structure to the game that we know. But, according to some people, they think this is the separation from the NCAA completely. Do you agree with that? What is your take on that? Or do you think that's just preposterous?
So I think that's absolutely the case. I think with the drama that was happening with University of Tennessee this past week, with the NCAA kind of trying to throw, a notice to Tennessee that there might be some sanctions for some NIL nonsense that they had to deal with, and
Yep.
the Tennessee, I don't know if it was the AD or someone involved with the school, was very emphatic on the comeback. Usually they let things like that slide, but they were very vocal in that they felt like the the ruling by the NCAA was very unjust, was very unfair, and that because there's no rules set in place at a certain time and rules are always changing, that it was unfair to the University of Tennessee to be suffering any sort of punishment for it. I think that was kind of an eye opener for Tennessee, the SEC, and I mean, I know Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey are already talking on a pretty normal, regular basis, and I think this Tennessee ruling from this past week may have kind of pushed things over the edge
Mm-hmm.
to the point where, again, these two conferences, whether we like it or not, and ultimately, big picture, considering the college football I grew up watching, I
Yep.
don't like it. But at the same time, I accept what is happening,
Yep.
whether I like it or not. I think these two teams or these two conferences with their media deals, I mean, take a note. It's just Big Ten and it's just the SEC. There's
Yep.
no Big 12. There's no ACC mentioned.
No Pac.
Any, well, Pac is gone now. So, it's
I
just,
know that was a joke.
it's one of those where it's very clear that they know who is about to run college football,
Yeah.
and everyone else can play for their sloppy seconds.
Yep.
It's I think it's very clear. It's headed towards a Power Two conference, and folks like you and I who root for very poor historic football programs are just lucky to be in a powerhouse.
Oh, bro, I think you got the wrong team
Already.
there.
I'm sorry. I'm pretty
I
sure
don't
you
know if
guys
you
are
know. I don't
Vikings.
know. I don't know if you know my team, but we got history, friend.
That was a pretty long time ago.
I
Yeah.
sound like a Cowboys fan, but we got history, friend.
So
All
that's
right,
about all you got. But
calm down. Go watch basketball.
your history was pre Big Ten. Let's not forget that. But anyways, the point is,
Or you at least there's some history. All right, go ahead.
it's become a Power Two sport
Yeah.
essentially, and I do think now the long game is for the Big Ten and the SEC to kind of come up with their own rules, their own
Mhm.
structures. You're talking about NIL. You're talking, Big Ten at least has always talked about, coming up with a way to pay their own players.
Right.
I think it's just a matter of time before they separate themselves and wave goodbye to the NCAA.
Yeah. They're, on the other coin to this, because, I personally, right now, I don't think that is, and I'll speak for right now, I don't think that is their goal. I think that their goal is to really try to correct this stuff and maybe light a fire in the NCAA's butt to get their crap together, because if the NCAA feels pressure from these two, juggernauts of conferences that are gaining power, then the NCAA has to be on point. They have to get this stuff straight. And I'll go through a couple of quotes here from Sanky and Petitti. Petitti said the Big Ten and the SEC have substantial investments in the NCAA. There's no question that the voices of our two conferences are integral to the governance and other reform efforts. He also said we need bipartisan solution for this national concept to move forward. If we don't, then we're going to be left not simply creating conference rules. We're going to have to deal with the state laws that vary in our region. And then, Sankey, there are similar cultural and social impacts to our student athletes, our institutions, and our communities because of the new collegiate athletics environment. We do not have predetermined answers to the myriad of questions facing us, like I mentioned earlier. We do not expect to agree on everything, but enhancing interaction between our conferences will help to focus on the common sense solutions. Nothing right now in college football is common sense solutions. Nothing seems to make sense. Like you said, the college football that we know and love is kind of gone. But as college football fans, we have to accept the ever evolving, ever changing landscape. And even with some of these coaching titles, like general manager, for instance, director of player personnel is like those sound like NFL type of roles. The general manager role is new within the last 10 years of college football, and it's there basically because it's ever evolving to a similar structure when it comes to roster management and those type of things. So I may be on the other side of this, and I'm probably in the minority that doesn't think the separation is the goal right now. Now, if they do come to a crossing of paths and there's really no meeting in the middle, no seeing eye to eye, then I think that could come from it. I know Petitti and Sanky have probably at least thought about that. Not sure if they've discussed it, but they've had to have at some point, just in the off chance that it doesn't go their way. Another part of this that I saw somewhere that's interesting is Nick Saban being brought on as the oversight guy potentially. There's nothing there to indicate this. Nobody said anything about it. But doesn't that kind of make sense to be the oversight board?
I mean, it does, but it doesn't, because he wasn't was he really a fan of the way of where college football was headed?
I know he wasn't a fan of the NIL, which makes it even more of a reason he may want to come in and regulate it. But who knows? He may want to avoid it at all costs. That's why he retired.
Yeah. My thinking is he's gonna have a bad taste in his mouth, even thinking about what the sport. We love college football. Imagine how much this guy, who's basically a sport lifer.
That's it. That's his life.
That's exactly right. And so, I mean, I guess it's an interesting name, but I'm not sure I see that. I think it's going to be a lot of, a couple ADs from both conferences mixed together, maybe a guy from Fox, both media companies, basically everyone's whose, how do I say, maybe interests are aligned.
Yeah.
They're basically going to be the ones to make the decisions. And, just to kind of circle back on what you said before, how you were saying that maybe this is to kind of keep the NCAA in line.
Yep.
I guess my thought is, at that point, what's the point of the NCAA? If we know, and everybody knows that the SEC and the Big Ten are dictating what the rules are, then really, what's the point of having the NCAA there? Now, I personally hope they, somewhat keep a relationship with the NCAA and it doesn't necessarily break off. Because I've heard stuff along the lines of, the Power Two essentially having their own playoff. Just between them, and everyone else is kind of fighting for, their own championship, their own. And I mean, that would really be a bummer to watch.
Yeah, it's almost like people are rooting for this, and I think this would it naturally would put the death knell in college football as we know it officially. And that is not a fun thing to think about.
No, it's corporatizing, the sport, which I know we all know that it's not a sport for amateurs to begin with.
For sure.
It's always been a business.
Yep.
But this recent, the news that came out today, and where both you and I have been talking about where the sport is heading, is just kind of making it official.
Yeah.
It's just basically telling us and telling the conferences, the ACC commissioner, Jim Phillips, it's telling the Big 12 commissioner, it's telling the rest of the football world and the athletic world that, hey, times are changing. It's up to us how involved we want you guys to be. Yeah. It's kind of a bullying tactic, and it's a bummer. I keep saying that, but it's what's happening.
It is, yeah. And to your point about what would be the point of the NCAA, I think I see it as almost like a capitalism angle where competition breeds excellence. And maybe if the Big Ten and the SEC are seen as competition, then the NCAA has no choice but to improve the quality of their product. I don't want to bring this to video games, but it's like EA Sports when they got the exclusive rights to Madden, they just got lazy with it, right? Whereas when 2K was out there, they were a little bit more on point with changing their game and getting it better. And then as soon as they had competition, they bought their licensing out, So very similar to that, where competition is going to keep you from getting complacent. And so hopefully, I'm hoping this is the first step, is to really try that angle towards the NCAA to force some action. And maybe the plan B is the Power Two, Big Two. Let's get the heck out of here and let's do our own thing. Let's maximize our profits. Let's make our own money, that type of deal. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But, right now, like I said, unanswered questions left and right, a lot of speculation to go around. There's teams that are even be flirting around entering the Big Ten and stuff like that. So there's a ton of talk, a ton of smoke, and we'll try to keep you updated on the, the latest that we know and the latest official stuff on top of some of the speculation we'll go over. So we'll definitely keep you updated on everything in regards to this joint forces of the Big Ten and the SEC. I never thought I'd say that, So anything before we head off, Sonny? Anything else on this?
Not to end it on a sad note, but a thought that just crossed my mind is, right now the move I think is to Power 2. But once these media deals end in the early 2030s, I think there's also a chance that there's even more consolidation. And now that the Big Ten and the SEC, the big powers, are working together, we have to, at least entertain the idea that in the 2030s, the Ohio States, the Michigans, the Penn States are going to decide that they want to join with the LSUs, the Alabamas, the Georgias, and the Nebraskas will be with the Illinois and the Vanderbilts, in the secondary schools.
Okay, all right.
There's a chance that basically all the powerhouse programs are going to at some point decide that they don't need the other schools, and, ultimately condense to one super conference, and that to me will be the death knell of what we think of college football. But in a way, I think it could also kind of grow the sport in the sense, because then I think this could be conversation for another show, but I'll just leave a teaser. Essentially, you can have like the top 15 programs in the country be in a super conference, but then what would happen to the remaining 100, let's just say 100 programs in the country? It could actually go back to the regionalized conferences of what the 80s and 90s was. So it's kind of like a look into the future may actually end up having us come back to the past.
Getting back to normal. Yeah. And that's a very good point, because, just because them two are joining forces and the college football is going a different direction, that doesn't mean that their end goal isn't to try to bring it full circle back around and try to balance business and the game that we love, fully. So yeah, man, it remains to be seen. It'll be very interesting to see how this plays out. But again, just one of those things that is very, very rare, and did not expect to see it. It caught us all a little by surprise, but here we are, and it's something we got to live with. So we'll follow along with it and see what happens, and hope for the best. So, but that'll do it here for us. We just want to get on and go over this a little bit with y'all. So if you like what we're doing here, please consider liking and subscribing. And let us know what you think on all this stuff. Let us know, if you're an SEC guy that somehow slid in here to the Big Ten show, let us know, Big Ten people, let us know how you feel about this and what you want to happen and what you expect to happen. And do you think that it's the ultimate goal is to divide, or do you think the ultimate goal is to make everything better? So like I said, we'll see. But again, thanks everybody for tuning into the Big Ten show. Feel free to go back and watch some more old videos if you're new to the channel. If not, stick with us, and we'll keep pumping out content, and we'll keep giving y'all stuff you want to see. So we will see you on the next video. Peace.